But we begin in the U.S., where Democrats are dividing their attention Tuesday between short-term and long-term goals. In Washington, potential 2020 candidates convened for the first time this year. A who's who of potential challengers to President Trump laid out their visions for the party and the country. Our Ed O'Keefe was there and joins us in a moment. But we start in Pennsylvania, a state crucial to a more immediate goal for Democrats, winning a majority in the House. Pennsylvania's primaries were on Tuesday. Democrats need to pick up 23 House seats in November. Pennsylvania has one of the highest numbers of seats to potentially flip in the fall. The Washington Post's Dave Weigel put it this way, quote, Democrats see the state as the launch pad for their party's comeback. John Delano is the money and politics editor for KDKA-TV in Pittsburgh, and he joins me now. All right, Mr. Delano, what issues are Democratic candidates for Congress running on in a state that President Trump turned red in 2016?
Hey, Elaine. First of all, great to be with you again. You know, Pennsylvania is a must-win state for the Democrats if they are to take control of the U.S. House of Representatives. And let me just back up a second. Why is that so when for years Pennsylvania has been overwhelmingly Republican in the U.S. House? Well, it's because we've got new congressional districts. For the first time this year, the state Supreme Court threw out the Republican gerrymandered districts and imposed new ones. And that means that today, in the Pennsylvania primary, we had 84 candidates running for 18 seats in the U.S. House. And so clearly, if there's going to be a takeover of the U.S. House by the Democrats, 20% of their seats will come from Pennsylvania, of their new seats. So what are the big issues? Well, really, in the primary elections, it really has not been much of a focus on Donald Trump. Rather, it has been on the individual qualifications of candidates. Sometimes it's been on the basis of gender. Sometimes it's been on the basis, frankly, of whether they're more progressive or liberal or more conservative. But the fact is that the Democrats are generally united in being anti-Trump. And so you don't see much differences among the candidates who are running in today's primary. What will be key is who wins and how they stack up against the Republican candidates or Republican incumbents. But the fact is we've got a whole lot more up for grabs, jump ball seats in Pennsylvania this year than we have in many decades.
Well, one Democrat, as you know, who is attracting attention is John Morganelli. He's running in the 7th District, where the party will be looking to turn the seat blue. But Morganelli favors hardline immigration policies and opposes abortion. So how is the party responding there?
Well, John Morganelli is the district attorney of one of the counties that's in that particular congressional district. He has run for statewide office. I've interviewed him a number of times over the year. He's a bit of an independent, iconoclast, I guess, within the Democratic Party. Doesn't always represent mainstream Democratic views. And there are at least two other candidates running in that 7th congressional district primary. I think what some Democrats fear is that if John Morganelli wins, he's not going to reflect the true nature of the capital D Democratic Party. But the fact is that Democrats in Pennsylvania, we've got many pro-life Democrats in Pennsylvania. Bob Casey, the U.S. Senator, is one of them. And we've had many pro-gun candidates in Pennsylvania simply because we are a strong gun rights Second Amendment state. So you can't put Pennsylvania Democrats into a East Coast Washington Beltway litmus test of who's a Democrat or not. And John Morganelli clearly does not fit in that traditional progressive Democratic mold.
Yeah, an interesting race there. Meanwhile, on the Republican side, Rick Ciccone is running for Congress in the 14th District after losing a special election in March. Can you tell us about his campaign against Guy Reschenthaler and how former Congressman Tim Murphy has inserted himself into that race?
Yeah, that's all very fascinating, Elaine, and thank you for asking about it. You know, it's very rare in politics that you get a second chance, let alone a second chance 9 weeks after you've lost an election. But Rick Ciccone lost an election by 0.3% to Connor Lamb. It was really close. He's now running in a district that's even more Republican, but he's facing opposition from another Republican in the primary today, and that is State Senator Guy Reschenthaler. Reschenthaler is a younger, much younger, conservative Democrat, and he's been a protege of former U.S. Congressman Tim Murphy. Now, it's Tim Murphy who resigned in disgrace, frankly, that opened up these seats in the first place. But Murphy has more than $1.2 million in his campaign account. He took $200,000 out of his campaign account and funneled it into a new PAC, a PAC that really had only one purpose, which was to attack Rick Ciccone and promote Guy Reschenthaler.
Wow.
So they've spent a couple $100,000 on TV, along with the money that Reschenthaler raised himself. Most people think it's going to be a close election in the 14th Congressional, which is a huge chunk of southwestern Pennsylvania. We don't know yet who's ahead or behind in that race. We'll know a little more later tonight. The Democrats have a race as well, by the way, and some people think that if Rick Ciccone wins the Republican nomination, it'll be tailor-made for the Democrats to do a Connor Lamb, you know, to come in and try to beat Ciccone again. So keep your eye on the 14th district in western Pennsylvania. That could be another play for the Democrats come November. We'll see.
Yeah, interesting dynamics shaping up there. Well, perhaps the most high-profile statewide race is the GOP's governor primary. There have been several negative ads during the campaign, but what issues, John, did the candidates focus on as they made their final pitches to voters?
Well, certainly the issues that all three Republicans made in this primary battle to run against Governor Tom Wolf is that Tom Wolf is a Democrat and he's going to raise your taxes. I mean, that was their basic pitch, that Wolf is a liberal Democrat. It's the same line that you hear all the time about Democrats from Republicans. The problem is that the two of the three candidates, the two men, spent most of the campaign with negative campaign ads calling each other liars, phonies, deadbeat dads. I mean, you conjure up the worst things you can say about somebody, and the two of them, Paul Mango and Scott Wagner, set it against each other. There's a woman in the race, Laura Ellsworth, who didn't have any money, so she couldn't engage in any of this. When she finally put some ads on at the end of the campaign, she basically said, hey, I'm not those guys, vote for me. So we'll see tonight whether any of that has made a difference. Scott Wagner is the party-endorsed candidate. He's a state senator from York County, central Pennsylvania. Many people think that Senator Wagner will be the Republican nominee, but it's hardly a done deal. Stay tuned, as they say.
All right. Well, finally, John, President Trump recorded a robocall for GOP Senate candidate Lou Barletta. Is there a lack of Republican enthusiasm or complacency in that race after GOP success in 2016?
You know, it's easy to say that because, of course, in the primaries, you don't get the national parties really engaged. And so I don't think it's fair either to President Trump or to either of the parties to say, well, where are they? I mean, they're going to be here. I guarantee you they're going to be here and all over the place in Pennsylvania come November. But Lou Barletta, Congressman Barletta, who is from Luzerne County up in the northeastern part of Pennsylvania, he was co-chair of the Trump campaign in 2016. And Donald Trump won Pennsylvania by a narrow amount of votes, but he won. And the fact is that the president owes Barletta, and Barletta is an unabashed Trump supporter. We think Barletta is likely to win today. He's got an opponent, State Representative Jim Christiana from Western PA. So we'll see how that turns out. But if Barletta wins, as is expected, he will be up against Bob Casey. Senator Bob Casey has a tremendous name in Pennsylvania, the Casey name, but he's an avowed opponent of President Trump's. And this will be a setup to have a very strong pro-Trump, a very strong anti-Trump candidate running in a state that narrowly voted for the president in 2016. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a very interesting race. We'll see what happens. Yeah, no shortage of storylines in your state. John Delano, so great as always to have your insight. Appreciate it, John. Great fun to be with you. Ask me anytime.